Hola amigos y bienvenidos otra vez al show de El Spice. Tenemos el abogado Hector Chavana con nosotros. Mr. Hector, thank you for joining us today. We've been talking about all your experiences on how to become an attorney. Now tell us a little bit more about what your experience is now in the system and what are the biggest cases right now going on?
Exactly. But just to give you a very quick oversight, there's three areas of the law. That's the criminal law, the civil law, and the administrative law. What's big right now, for example, in the criminal law, in that area of the law, at least here in Harris County, is, of course, two types of cases. And that's the DWI law, driving while intoxicated, and the assault family violence laws that are in place right now. Particularly with the assault family violence, this is a area of the law, a crime right now that is very, very pervasive, unfortunately, here in Harris County. Some of it, as a Latino, I have to say, some of this stems from cultural misunderstandings and cultural differences between, say, Latin American countries and the United States. I'm not saying that in Latin American countries family violence is allowed or permitted, but it's looked upon a little bit different than here in the United States. So to a certain extent, there's that culture clash when this happens here in the United States. But the crux of it is that right now here in Harris County, and rightly so, they are taking the assault family violence cases very seriously. This is usually where the husband, boyfriend, significant other physically abuses the other person, the female, and of course the police are summoned and that person is taken to jail. The district attorney has taken a stance that these cases are going to be taken very seriously, and rightly so, because of all the cases, this is one of the cases that can continue if it's not attended to. And so the district attorney is taking measures to deal with these cases and deal with these cases in a just manner, but at the same time that the offender understands that this cannot be allowed, should not be allowed in our society. And it's also something that the children should not see, because we know from the psychologists, the psychiatrists, that if children see this, it perpetuates that, and that they can become batterers when they become young men. And so we want to indeed go ahead and do something now so that it does not continue into the future. And I think the district attorney's office is doing a marvelous job here in Harris County. They even have a special division. It's called the FCLD, Family Something Law Division, where they attend to nothing but family law cases. And those district attorneys, those assistant district attorneys, deal with these family assault violent cases specially and particularly. They specialize in those cases. And again, this is an area that's big right now. It's very pervasive. It's just, it has to be dealt with, and it has to be dealt with now. As well as educational.
Well, right now that you're talking about the effect that has on the children, I mean, I can't even emphasize that so much, because what are we showing them? Like, this is how you fix issues, this is how you fix problems, by reacting that way, and that's not the best way to show them.
Become abusers, and the girls become recipients of the abuse, and if they think it's not okay, but it's
they look at it like, oh, that's how I fix the problem.
Right.
Exactly. And one of the good things, I believe, is that if the person should get probation, and if this is his first offense, and he has no other criminal offenses, he more than likely will get, but he is required to go to counseling sessions. He's required to go to anger management courses. There's a course called BIP, Battering Intervention Prevention Program. That's another good program to address this issue of family violence and to control the temper. And so these are the programs that are in place right now and should continue.
Yeah.
And like I said, the district attorney is doing a great job in that area right now.
So do you think that sometimes maybe the guys are unaware that there's, you know, consequences that they have to deal with? Because sometimes in other countries, they don't really enforce this kind of law?
Exactly. Like I said previously, as a Latino, I'm aware that in other countries, though it may not be so to speak, legal,
right.
At least it's tolerated.
Right.
And they feel that, of the authorities, that that's a family matter. They should not get involved. And as a result, there's been some horrendous cases that have occurred in Mexico. That is changing.
Yeah.
That is changing little by little, where women's rights organizations in Mexico and other Latin American organizations are petitioning the government to have a system more like the United States to address matters of family violence. And,
Right.
and I think it will change. It's going to take time, but again, we have that cultural difference. So when people come here, the male probably thinks he can get away with this, but they learn quickly that's not the case.
Right, and not only that, but law enforcement is very different in other
Very much.
countries. Just like when you watch Cops, sometimes you get guys that run from the cops in other countries, which is very, you know, it's common sometimes because you don't trust the police sometimes in other
That's true.
countries, so they run, and they, you know, it's kind of okay, you know, because you're kind of getting away from the bad guy. But here, if they do that here, you know, it's
That's
a
another
big
case.
deal. Yeah,
That's
it's a
another
really
case
big deal
against it.
here. So
It's called evading or
Right.
Evading
evading arrest or detention. Yeah. So now you have another case on top of,
Right.
of your assault
I'd
case.
like to ask you, for instance, as a woman who's being abused, say I'm being abused, and I go file for that restraining order for him to get detained, and then he gets released. What is it that I can do to protect myself? Because he's going to come back and hurt me even worse. So I might as well not even go.
Excellent, excellent. Along with the probation requirement that the judges require of an individual, there's also, most of the time, 90% of the time, the judge will issue a MOAB. That's a motion, magistrate's order for emergency protection. That tells this individual that he cannot contact this person, write this person, email this person, fax this person, send them letters, send them chocolates, send them flowers, send them smoke signals, or even love letters.
like
for-
Rihanna.
Yes.
Was it Rihanna and
And Chris.
Yes.
So after you go and file for that
For-
protective order,
for-
they cannot contact you.
Right, and this is for a period of 61 days. This is when there's a criminal case. Now, there's also the one that lasts for 2 years. Now, that's in district court, and that's completely different. That's a restraining order, and that's even lengthier. That's for 2 years.
Okay.
But do people sometimes not follow these restrictions?
Obviously,
I'm
some
sure,
people
I'm
do,
sure
and-
they do.
and they
the
have
cops,
just-
it's too late sometimes.
And they have just picked up a new case.
And I think we're going to have to pick up that here in just a second when we take a
Yes.
break, because I have another question actually referring to that very instance as to who can do it and who cannot.
Oh,
After we
yes.
take this break, we'll be right back.